are making our own ephemera, we're going to color some ribbon for ourselves. And so what I'm working with here is some leftover fabric. This is a cotton. You could use like a muslin, a cotton. Old shirts would work, bed sheets would work. This was just a scrap I had, and what we want to do is actually cut it so it's not too terribly long. What I have here is about 11 inches long, and that's just the piece I chose. It could be any length that you want, but the important thing is to be able to cut a thin piece, like a width of a ribbon that you want to work with. All right, so you just put a little slit into the fabric, and then you want to be able to rip it. And there is your torn ribbon piece. All right, and it does curl on itself, but what we want is that frayed, we want to get that frayed edge. So I'm going to go ahead and rip a few more pieces, and then we'll go into different ways to get this colored. So I have torn a bunch of them, and you could color them all at the same time, or if you want to do different colors, you could pull them out. Now there's a bunch of different materials that we could use. So to begin with, I'm going to lay down on my glass mat some ink, and once I have a decent amount down, I'm going to squirt it with water, and then I'm going to just run my ribbon through it, my piece of fabric through it, so it gets all on the fabric. All right, and so there I have colored, but I haven't completely colored it. Okay, it is, I think I can show you here, it is somewhat splotchy, and that's what I want, because I now want to go in and add some pink on top of it, which may make a peachy color, or it may just do some spot coloring, but this depends on how you apply your ribbon into this. And so I'm going to stretch this out and see if I can kind of control it a little bit and just dab it like that. So now you can see I'm getting different color in different spots. So I could make this a solid color, but I've chosen to do kind of a spotty application. And now I'm going to scrunch it up and just go in and pick up the rest of that color. And let's pull this out and see. So we've got kind of a orangey color, but I think once we dry, we're going to see the yellow and the pink on that piece of ribbon. So that's the first way. And then you can also do it with paint. So I have some paint here from Deco Earth, and actually I'm going to go with a different color here. Kind of like this color. And so same technique, but with paint. I'm going to put a little bit down and get it wet. I take a ribbon piece and just get it on my fabric. And if I wanted, I could put this in a plastic bag and apply the color that way. Going to get my glass mat quite wet here so I can pick up the rest of the color. All right, and that's quite wet. I'm just going to ball that up and set it off to the side and dry this area off. Now you could do the same thing with re-inkers. You could do it with sprays. You could do it with alcohol inks. So let me just grab a couple of other things and we can continue. All right, so I grabbed some pearl alcohol ink. I thought it'd be fun to see what the pearl does. So I've got kind of a yellowy gold color. I don't know if it says what it is. It says radiant on here. That one says divine. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm just going to put some drops on there. So there's the radiant. And this one is divine. And you can see I have it all, my little ribbon here, all balled up. All right, and now I'm going to go in with my blending solution and get this wet. Let's just squish that together and let it sit like that, and we'll see what happens. All right, for this one, I'm going to use some sprays, but I wanted to protect the area. Usually I do it in a spray box, but since I'm doing it on a video, I kind of wanted to control my space here. So I'm going to just try to do a little spritzing on the mat, and then pick up the specks onto the back side, hopefully. And so there, I have a very speckled ribbon. All right, and then I want to go ahead and use up the color I have there, so I'm going to spray that with water, and then bring in another ribbon piece and pick up that pink color. All right, so very different look to them. And then if I wanted to get this one speckled, I could do, I kind of have this silvery color. Don't know. Let's just put that aside and bring in another one. And I'll hit that with this. This one has mica in it. So it's going to give me a speckledy look. And I'm going to go back with the pink and get some sparkle on there too. But if you want ribbons that coordinate with your ink or your paint or your alcohol inks, your sprays, then yeah, you could go ahead and be very controlled about what you're doing. I'm just making these to put in my stash to use later. And I like the torn edge, kind of for junk journaling or kind of a vintagey look, although I know the colors I'm using are not all that vintage type. All right, so there's a different speckle, because we had the silver to speckle on there as well. All right, for this one I'm going to use alcohol ink marker. And I am just going to work in sections here where I can get it to lay out flat and just draw on it. And this one is soaking through real nice. I'm working on the glass mat so I can clean up my surface if I need to. But you can see just a quick pass. It's not really using up too much of my ink. And I suppose you could do this in sections in different colors if you wanted to. Or maybe go in with a light color and then go over it in sections with a darker color. But that one was really quick and easy. And with the alcohol ink, it's going to dry rather quickly too. For this one, I'm going to use Distressed Oxide, and I have bunched this up like so. And I am just going to take my little ink pad and just, let's see if we can stamp right onto it, right? And then I'm going to move that around and go in with a different color. So this one's going to end up being pretty splotchy looking, I think. Get some more of this color on there. And you can see I'm flipping this over because the ink isn't traveling through. All right, so I'm flipping that over. And I don't want all that color to go to waste, so I'm going to spritz it with water and bring in another one. Get that all on this ribbon. And anywhere you see that it has a spot that is not covered, you can go in and open it up and rub it. Or the other thing I'm going to do is ball it up in my hand here and get it pretty wet. And then I'm going to work that little ball in my hand, and you can see the ink coming off on my gloves. And you can see that that just now saturated that whole piece in that color. All right, for this one, I'm going back in with paint, but you can see how I folded it into fourths. And what I'm going to do now is go in with two different colors. So I put down this light green, and I'm going to use my water to get it pretty activated. And I'm just going to get the paint on this side of the ribbon. All right, and then I'm going to take a different green and get it on the other side of the ribbon. So then when we go to open it, we're going to have spots of different color. All right, so that one has got green and green, but it's going to give me stripes, I think, or sections. So now I'm just going to clean this up. So these have not dried yet, but I did kind of open up the alcohol ink one, and I really like how this is looking and kind of variegated. And so I'm going to do a few more of that technique. So now that I'm done with coloring, I am going to iron these, and I am using a craft iron. I am not using my household iron, and I am ironing right on top of my glass mat. My glass mat can take the heat, but I am also putting down a tissue because if there's any moisture left in my ribbons, it just bounces right back into the ribbon, and the ribbon doesn't dry. So by putting it on a dry baby wipe, or even just like I have it on a tissue here, you can see not only is it picking up any of the color that might be there, it is taking the moisture. So some of these I have ironed, and I saw a line of moisture in my tissue. So if you're going to iron like I am, and ironing is perfectly fine to get them to dry at the same time if they're damp, but you do want to, you can see here I've got moisture and color happening there. So this one is pretty balled up, and so it's taking a little bit more work to get it to lie flat, but still worth the process, I think, to get my colored kind of ephemera ribbons, if you will. Now the ones with the alcohol ink, you definitely want to make sure that they are completely dry before you iron, because alcohol and heat do not go well together. So I'm going to continue on in with this process, and then as I get them done, I will come back and show you all of the ironed ribbons. All right, so here are the ribbons. I have ironed them. Now some of the smaller ones, they want to curl, and I think that it has to do with the pulling of the fabric and those fibers, and how they moved. But I really like the look of them all together, and I could even see doing like some kind of a tassel-y thing with them, but I'll walk you through them individually. All right, so this one was the alcohol ink marker, and it worked out well, and it is fairly soft. This one is alcohol ink, and I think this was the very first one we did, and the alcohol ink does give it a little bit more tooth to it, and I think it might be because of the mica that was in it, but this one is really, really pretty. And then okay, here's one that was sprayed, and it's not totally covered with color, and so it is very soft, and I like the splotchiness of it. And so a couple more here that were sprayed. Now one of them I sprayed with the silver, and it is not showing up at all on these. They're just pink. There might be a little teeny bit of gray right there, I don't know, but it didn't, for some reason it didn't take. But this one is fairly soft as well. And then here is the one that I used to pick up, and I think I even balled this one up in my hand, and so ironing out this guy was a little difficult, and you can see it's a little splotchy in some areas, but for the most part it is a hot pink kind of ribbon with some little bit of splotchiness depending on which side you're looking at. All right, this one was small, and it was alcohol ink. I think I did this one off camera, but it was some more earthy colors. It did have some mica in them. It was a pearl. They might have both been pearl colors, but there's that. And again, a little bit firmer to it. This one also is alcohol ink, and I love how the colors kind of blended together and broke down, especially in this little area right here. Hopefully that's, are we focusing well enough? So yeah, I like this process. It is a firmer kind of ribbon. I can feel some firmness to it, and once again, I think that has to do with the mica that was in it. This one was the stamping pads, the little stamping pads. It did come out like a splotchy purple, which I like. As I was ironing it and this one was kind of hard to straighten out because it had twisted, and as I pulled on it, the ink came off, and I can even see now that my fingers have a slight purpleness to them too. Let me grab a tissue here, and let's see if I just rub this. Just a little bit of color still coming off, but I will say that ironing them does kind of set the color, a heat set to the color. So if I rub this one, and you can see that it just wanted to fold up on itself there. A little bit coming off. This one, alcohol ink. Now this one was not pearl. These were just straight alcohol ink colors. And even that has a little bit of thickness feel to it. But I like the splotchy look to the color. This one was extremely hard to iron out, and this was the leftover paint. I found the paint ones the hardest to iron. Once again, this one was really small too. So, it's fairly soft though. I think the heavier the amount of paint on it, the firmer the ribbon gets. But for the most part, this one was very hard to iron out. And you can see it's still folding over on itself right about here. I don't know that I got that totally flattened out there. The threads are hard to, or make it harder to flatten out when they're pulling like this, but I really like the quality of that from the tearing, and so I tried to keep as many as I could. If there was a big ball of them, I tried to pull it off because it was just getting in the way of ironing. All right, so you can see here some pink threads, some brown threads coming out here. This was the very first one we did with the ink, and it is very soft. You can see it sat next to one that was green, and so it picked up some of that color on the end here and in the middle. It is still a little bit splotchy. I mean, I can see, I don't know if you can, but there is some variation there between the yellow and the pink, although the pink is really light. And overall, I like it, and this is one of the softer ones. So I think the more water content you use, the softer the ribbon is. I think this one was paint and with a lot of water. So full coverage, and that one is fairly soft, and it was fairly easy to iron, I believe. Let's see, this one was a pickup of the small stamp pads, and so it's kind of full coverage, and again, really hard to iron out because it's so thin. So you want to take that into consideration. Although, you know, having it twist and roll up on itself, I don't mind that look. If you know you're going for a grungy, or this one has some yellow threads stuck to it, and that's okay. So they'll keep shedding and making threads. This one was the paint that, remember we wanted to, I did like half and half. I folded it, and so yeah, we got a variation of greens going on here, and I like the look. So that worked out well. I did, when I went to iron this one, because it was still damp, and you don't want to let the paint ones dry completely because it will seal it shut in its folded up state. So since it was still damp, I wrapped it in a cloth or a tissue and ironed the moisture somewhat out of it, and then I went back in to straighten this one out. And so this one works out well too. So all of them were successful in the coloring. I don't know which, well, I do know which technique was my favorite. It's the alcohol ink ones that are different variations of color, kind of variegated, I guess I'll call it. These are my favorite. And yeah, they're on a ribbon, but I could see doing this technique on a larger fabric and using it for something, I'm not sure what, but I really liked the look of these. Here's another one. This one, it might have been, it wasn't purple. It might have been like a reddish rust with gold. So that one, and then this one, we're more brown, in the brown or alloy family, because I thought I might want a vintagey looking ribbon. And the last one, this one did not have the pearl. This one was just the alcohol ink, and it was purple, and I think Stream was the other one. So yeah, you could get solid with alcohol ink, like the alcohol marker. I really like this color of marker. That's why I did this one. So you could do solid, but I also like the difference. And together does make a really nice look together. So overall, I like these. And once again, as I said, this is another one in the Ephemera series where we're making our own colored ribbons. And this is not a finished product. It is a product that I am going to now store and have in my arsenal for working with in the future. So I hope you like this one, and I hope you give them a try. Let me know in the comments which medium you liked the best. Alcohol ink, paint, spray, marker. You could even stamp on them. I mean, if you made a bigger, fatter ribbon, you could stamp pattern onto them, but even just all together like that, I really like the look of them. So I hope you enjoyed this one.